Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. I see the Scottish Tories are having a go at wee Harvie. The deviant imp has apparently got no clue how much the heat pumps are going to cost, and is unaware totally that some people will pay up to £40,000 if they have to put them in. Money that would otherwise go into the economy, and it would thus destroy the economy. And of course, new house builders putting these things in, nobody wants to buy them, and so they're having and forced to put them in, and then nobody will buy the houses, locking the capital up, and thus no building. You're having to lay people off. The whole of the housing market will shrink and be destroyed. I've covered it before. This one policy is utterly destructive to everything. And so of course Harvie likes it, him being the little Marxist who wants to destroy all growth and end private ownership. A man who sits there in his little private rented flat bemoaning people who've actually worked, earned and taken the risk and bought a property. He's being left behind. He is yesterday's man, but he's just so toxic and poisonous that he wants to bring everyone down with him. Well, we'll take a look at this to see why Harvie hasn't got a clue and how utterly dangerous it is giving this strange little man any kind of power. And if he wants to stamp his tiny little feet in annoyance, let him. Here goes. So Patrick Harvie has no idea. You could stop that sentence there, really, couldn't you? But anyway, it continues. He has no idea how much heat pump diktat will cost Scots amid £40,000 fears. The Scottish Conservatives said the Green Minister has no concept of the cost of households, and he doesn't seem to care either. Well, of course he doesn't care. He'll never have one. He lives in a flat. He lives in a little flat alone, miserable, sad, a joyless, empty little existence. And because of his misery, he is absolutely wanting to spread it. He doesn't like fun. He never has any. And he hates the idea of someone somewhere ever having a smile on their face. And if he can create misery and poverty, that's his ambition in life. He's a man who received very, very few votes, and yet has strangely got an inappropriate amount of authority over the lives of people in Scotland. It's time the Greens went the way of all things. Flush them down the toilet, especially little turds like him. Patrick Harvie was accused of having no idea how much his heat pump plan will cost Scottish households. We previously told that the Scottish Green Minister's flagship Heating Buildings Bill has been criticised by the Independent Regulatory Review Group. Now, this is a government bloc. This is a government group. So the government of which he is a member is actually criticising his policy because it is so bad. One, it's inappropriate for most houses in Scotland in terms of actual heating. Two, it will represent a clear and present health threat because it will fail to get water hot enough in most houses. Hot enough, that is, to kill the bacteria. You're going to end up with things like Legionnaire's disease. Three, it is massively expensive on an individual basis. He's going, oh, it's £10,000, you get a £7,500 grant. Oh, so £2,500 is easy for most people to put their hands on. It isn't. And that's only for the heat pump. You will need to put in a whole new central heating system, radiators, pipes, the lot. I got quoted for my house £35,000. That was 2 years ago. It won't be any cheaper now. And so for most people, it's going to be £35,000 to £40,000. Now, first of all, they've got to find that money, and a little £7,500 grant that runs out soon anyway won't do it. That's number one. Number two, once you've spent that money, you can't spend money elsewhere. So your pubs, clubs, bars, restaurants, all these things, they're going straight away. They're not. All of those are closed, so all the people there are unemployed. And because people have had to pay all this, the whole of the housing market will collapse, which means the house prices will drop, which means most people will be in negative equity, which means most people then won't be able to sell to move to a bigger house, so they'll be stuck in inappropriate housing. The whole housing market will crash. Nobody's going to be buying new homes. All the capital and money locked up in homes that are ready to be sold will go. All the builders will collapse. They'll go bankrupt. They'll have to lay off all the traders. The tradies will go down south to England, carry on working. Thank you very much. You probably never get them back. And that is what one little man will do with one very, very stupid policy that right now needs to be kicked into touch. It will never, ever happen. And new builds, I know now. I've seen them. We have, where I am in the village, there's new builds going in, and they wanted 10% of them to be fitted with heat pumps during the build. And currently, only 2 out of about 18, I think it is, of these houses that have heat pump heating in them, only 2 of them have been sold. And what's worse is you go past and you can hear the noise coming from these heat pumps all the time. This hum all the time. All the time. And it's really annoying. And if you lived next door to someone who had that going all the time, it would drive you mad. So heat pumps are not the answer. They are useless, especially the further north you go. Number 1, they're useless. Number 2, they're really annoying. Number 3, of course, and the worst part is running them is hideously expensive. But again, Harvie hasn't worked out the cost. Electricity is way more expensive than gas. They'll go, oh yes, but you get more heat out than you put in. It may be the case, but what's the pence cost on that heat? More than gas. And not as controllable. And it has to run all the time. And it's stupid. Anyway, the Scottish Government wants private rented houses to have ditched gas boilers by 2028. So what will happen in 2028? Every private landlord in Scotland will sell their house. House price collapse. Sell your house now, guys. Get in early. Sell it. Sell it towards the middle of 2028. I'm going to tell you the best time. I'm going to tell you the best time, absolutely, to sell your house if you are a private landlord and you want to get as much out as possible. Boom. Easter 2027. That's when you sell your house. Because come 2028, everyone will be selling because they'll realise the implication. And the market will collapse. And that will be the end of housing in Scotland. A massive, massive fall. 4 years from now, in 4 years' time, house prices in Scotland are going to drop like a stone. So, rent for the next 3 years. Rent them out for the next 3 years. And in 3 years' time, about this time of year, in 3 years, flog them, sell them all. Get rid. Because otherwise you're going to be left with houses you are not allowed by law to rent out because they don't have heat pumps, and you're going to have a bill of about £30,000 to £40,000 per house to bring them up to spec. Sell them. Anyway, all houses and non-domestic buildings will be required to end their use of polluting heating by the end of 2045. Good luck. No, they won't. They may be required to, but they won't be able to. It's impossible. Anyway, RRG, this is the group within Holyrood, highlighted glaring deficiencies in the scheme. It was raising significant concerns that the proposed dates for delivering heat and building standard across domestic and non-domestic buildings are unrealistic. You can put a 1, make it 2145, and you may just be able to do it. The issue was raised at Holyrood on Tuesday when Mr Harvie, Minister for Net Zero Buildings, was quizzed by Edward Mountain MSP of the Scottish Conservatives. Mountain asked Harvie how much it would cost to make the switch. However, the Minister was unable to provide a figure because he hasn't got a clue. He does not know. The man is a moron. He's a tiny little moron with far too much power. Fire him. Get rid of him. Tell him to go back to the back benches and to sit there and count the fluff in his navel, because that's all he's good for. After his response to the report, Mr Harvie claimed it highlighted the economic opportunity for Scotland in transitioning to clean heat. He doesn't know what clean heat is, though, does he? He said, and it identified key issues around communication, supply chain and phasing on which we continue to work as we develop the bill. He doesn't know what he's doing. What's he developing? He's developing the destruction of Scotland. Mountain responded, saying, that's not how I read it. He said, what I read was unrealistic deadlines, no knowledge of the extent of the issue, unawareness of the ability of the market readiness, and total incomprehension of cost to householders and businesses. And he went on to say, if you're living in a 2-bedroom rural property of traditional design, maybe 30 or 40 years old, he says, as a surveyor, I can tell you, I estimate the cost to get it to EPCC and to meet your requirements is in the region of £40,000. And he added that he was concerned Mr Harvie had not grasped the reality of costs and did not really care at this stage what the cost to businesses and homeowners would be. The Green MSP responded by saying the Tories don't seem to grasp the urgency of the challenge. There's no urgency. What the hell's he on about, the urgency? There is no urgency. And you know how you know that there's no urgency to climate change? Private jets. They're still going. If there was an absolute emergency, as they're trying to push, they'd ban private jets. Strangely, they haven't. They'd close down Las Vegas. Still going. They'd close down Euro Disney. Still going. While those businesses are still running, you know there is no climate emergency. It's all BS and control freakery. That's what it is. And little ignorant twats like the imp, the deviant imp, are just the little bag men for these people. He does not know what the hell he's talking about and never will, because he's far too stupid. Coming up. Now, I know that Mountain was right. About 40,000 seems about right. Like I said, mine was quoted at 35,000, so that was 2 years ago. So I'd imagine 40,000 is about spot on. And if you multiply that across the millions of houses across Scotland, you're talking £500 billion. Where does Harvie think this money's coming from? The magic pixie? No, Harvie. You're a fool. You're a moron. Give it up. Propose something sensible like the eradication of the Green Party because they're too stupid to exist. And people can get on board with that. But when you're talking about forcing the people of Scotland to spend somewhere in the region of £500 billion just to fulfil your little wet dream of net zero, which doesn't exist, it's impossible, then you have to seriously wonder why you're in politics and not in a mentalist institute, because you are completely out of your tree, you sad little man. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll stop there. Do hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, and I will speak to you later. Bye.